Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. We are jumping right into some incredibly intense recent reports and source materials today. If you end up finding this discussion helpful, please drop a like and leave a comment to support the deep dive. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it helps a lot.
Joining me today to unpack all of this is our resident geopolitical analyst, MC Morgan Jones. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. I have to say, the sources we are looking at today are pretty mind-blowing. It really flips everything we thought we knew about modern warfare on its head.
It really does. So for you listening at home, our mission for this deep dive is to figure out what is actually happening in the skies over the Middle East right now.
Right.
Because for decades, we've all operated on this assumption that Israel's airspace is basically impenetrable, right?
Oh, absolutely. The ultimate iron shield.
But the recent reports are showing a very different picture. We're seeing strikes on the Haifa port in the north. There was heavy fire at the Bazan oil refinery. And this is all happening despite official claims that the opposing military capabilities have been neutralized.
Which is quite the contradiction.
Yeah, it's a massive contradiction. So the big question we're tackling today is, if Israel has arguably the most sophisticated, most expensive air defense network on the planet, how are these strikes suddenly getting through?
Well, to answer that, we really have to look at the battlefield reality. We have to separate the political declarations from what is actually happening on the ground.
Right, because the rhetoric has been pretty strong lately.
Oh, very strong. I mean, according to the sources, you have figures like Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu recently claiming that Iran's military and nuclear industries were completely wiped out.
Wiped out completely.
Right. They painted this picture that the regime is crumbling from within, that the threat is essentially gone.
But the reality on the ground...
The reality is completely different. We are more than a month into this campaign, and reports show that Iran's missile capabilities have zero signs of weakening. None.
Zero. Wow.
Yeah. Major Israeli cities, heavily guarded places like Tel Aviv, Dimona, Arad, they've all suffered significant hits.
I try to put myself in the shoes of someone living there. You're watching the news and the officials are telling you the threat is gone. You are safe.
Right. Everything is fine.
Yeah, everything is fine. But then the sirens go off and you see explosions right above your supposedly impenetrable city. That disconnect between what you are told and what you see has to be terrifying.
It's a huge psychological blow.
Yeah.
And it forces us to ask, if the missiles are still coming, why isn't the shield stopping them all like it used to?
Right. What is the mathematical reason here?
Well, the first reason is exactly that, math. It is a simple, brutal lack of ammunition.
Ammunition, so they are just running out of interceptors.
Exactly. The report suggests that Israel used up an astonishing 80% of its most advanced anti-air weapons within just the first 3 weeks of the conflict.
Wait, 80% in 3 weeks?
Yes, 80%.
That is insane. I mean, these aren't just bullets you can manufacture in a warehouse overnight.
No, not at all. Here's a highly complex, multi-million-dollar pieces of technology. They take months, sometimes years to produce.
So if you blow through 80% of your stockpile in under a month, you have to change your strategy, right? You can't just shoot at every single thing that pops up on the radar anymore.
Exactly. You are forced into a strategic shift. They had to start prioritizing which targets to save. You protect the military bases, the critical infrastructure, but that means you leave other areas vulnerable. The system becomes much less comprehensive.
It's like, think of a world-class goalkeeper facing penalty kicks.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Right, so you have the best goalie in the world. They can block almost anything. But if the opposing team lines up and just starts taking hundreds of shots, one after another, nonstop.
They are going to get exhausted.
Exactly. Even the best goalie will eventually run out of energy to dive. If the shots never stop coming, eventually some are going to roll right into the net.
That is a perfect way to look at it. Because it's not just that Israel is running low on missiles, it is how the opponent is forcing them to spend those missiles.
The swarm tactics.
Yes, overwhelming swarm tactics. The reports detail how Iran is combining enormous numbers of unmanned aerial vehicles, basically cheap drones, with cluster bombs.
So they're just flooding the zone.
Flooding the zone. Because no defense system in human history is 100% perfect. By radically increasing the sheer volume of incoming threats all at the exact same time, they are intentionally overloading the system's processing capacity.
I mean, a computer can only track so many targets at once, right?
Exactly. You saturate the radar. But here is where the deep dive gets really interesting. This is the biggest aha moment in the source material.
Okay, lay it on us.
So swarms are a problem. Low ammo is a problem. But the fatal flaw is much deeper. You cannot shoot what you cannot see.
Going back to the quote from the beginning, blinding the shield.
Yes. Let's look at the layers of Israel's defense network. You have the Iron Dome for short-range threats.
Right, the famous one.
Then you have David Sling for medium range.
Okay.
And then Arrow 2 and Arrow 3 for exo and endo-atmospheric ballistic missiles. And finally, you have the Tayed system supplied by the U.S.
So it's a completely layered, overlapping net.
In theory, yes. But here is the catch. All of these layers rely on a massive integrated network of radars and sensors shared by the U.S. and Israel.
The eyes of the operation.
Exactly, the eyes. And the sources reveal that Iran directly targeted this eyesight.
Directly targeted the radars.
Yes. According to the reports, at least 12 U.S. radar and satellite communication stations in the Middle East have been hit.
12?
12, including some of the most critical ones. They hit the massive ANN-TPY-2 radars in Jordan.
Wait, isn't that the radar that goes with the TAD system?
That is exactly the one. And they also hit an ANN-FPS-132 phased array radar in Qatar.
Wow. So to clarify for you listening, the story here isn't that the missiles in the shield are broken.
No.
It's that the network acting as the eyes of the shield has literally been blinded. The missiles are sitting there, but they don't know where to shoot.
Exactly. And the implications of this are huge. Because if that shared radar network is compromised, it means U.S. forces in the region are just as vulnerable as Israeli forces.
Oh, man. So it's not just an Israel problem now.
Not at all. The sources report a pretty shocking reality regarding U.S. soldiers in the region. They are no longer permitted to live on many of the Gulf military bases.
The soldiers can't sleep on the bases.
No. They are considered too vulnerable to drone strikes. The reports say they are being forced to relocate to civilian hotels.
That is wild. A military base is supposed to be the most secure place you can be.
You would think so. But the evidence is clear. Look at the attack on the Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia.
What happened there?
12 U.S. soldiers were injured in a drone strike. And perhaps even more critically from a strategic standpoint, an E-3 AWACS aircraft was damaged.
An AWACS?
Yeah.
For those who might not know, an AWACS is an early warning aircraft. It's that big plane with the massive radar dome on top. It's essentially a flying command and control center. They are incredibly rare and insanely expensive.
Right. And one was damaged sitting on a supposedly secure base. So how is the Pentagon reacting to this vulnerability?
I imagine they are panicking.
They're essentially moving pieces around the global chessboard. The reports state the Pentagon is moving parts of THAAD and Patriot systems from Asia over to the Middle East.
Wait, let me stop you there. Moving parts, not whole new system.
Just parts. And that is a crucial distinction. Because they are moving components, it implies they are desperately trying to repair damaged radars and sensors. They aren't just adding new firepower. They are trying to fix what was broken.
So they are cannibalizing systems from Asia to patch up the blind spots in the Middle East.
Exactly. And this exposes a massive, fundamental strategic flaw in modern U.S. warfare.
Which is?
Heavy reliance on incredibly expensive static ground-based defense systems. They are sitting ducks.
I mean, yeah. If you know exactly where a billion-dollar radar is bolted to the ground and you have 1,000 cheap drones...
It's only a matter of time. It proves that modern air defense isn't fully ready for modern, cheap drone warfare.
That is a terrifying thought. So with the defenses weakened like this, what does the actual conflict look like right now?
It has evolved into a terrifying game of high-stakes table tennis. The tit-for-tat escalation is moving incredibly fast, and they are hitting increasingly sensitive targets.
Give us the timeline from the reports.
Okay, so Israel hits steel plants in Isfahan and Ahvaz, and power infrastructure in Tehran.
Okay, major infrastructure.
Right. And then immediately, Iran hits the UAE's massive aluminum plant, Israel's Rotem chemical plant, and strikes Haifa.
So it's just back and forth, hitting economic and industrial centers.
But then it crossed the ultimate line.
The nuclear line.
Exactly. Following an attack on Iran's Natanz nuclear enrichment complex, which is in Isfahan, Iran immediately targeted Dimona.
Dimona. And for our listeners, Dimona is the city right next to the Negev Nuclear Research Center,
Yes.
which is widely known as the absolute heart of Israel's nuclear weapons program.
Right. It is the most sensitive target imaginable.
So they are establishing a terrifying new rule here. The logic is, if you touch our nuclear sites, your nuclear sites are no longer off limits, and we will hit them within hours.
It is a fundamental shift in the power dynamics of the Middle East. For decades, the U.S. and Israel dictated the pace and limits of conflicts.
They set the rules.
Exactly. The sources actually cite former Israeli Foreign Minister Zabili Livni's doctrine from 2008. The idea was to always have an overwhelming, unpredictable reaction to terrify enemies into submission.
Right, which sounds a lot like the madman theory.
Yes, originally associated with Richard Nixon during the Cold War. You act deliberately unpredictable, maybe even slightly irrational and disproportionate.
So the enemy thinks, whoa, we better not mess with them. They might just launch a nuke.
Exactly. And we saw a recent example of Israel pushing those limits with the assassination of the IRGC Navy commander Alireza Tangsiri. It is a very aggressive, unpredictable move.
But the reversal here.
The reversal is that Iran has now adopted the exact same madman theory.
Wow.
Instead of just absorbing the blows and trying to de-escalate, Iran is matching the unpredictability. They are refusing to play by the old limits. They are expanding the geography of the war.
So now you have two sides, both playing the madman.
Yes.
And because of that, the ceiling for escalation has just completely vanished.
Exactly. And this threatens the entire globe, not just the region.
Because it's not just about missiles, right? The reports talk about their long-term strategy.
Right. Iran is playing a much wider game. They are leveraging proxy forces to control vital maritime choke points.
The shipping lanes.
Yes. The Strait of Hormuz, and through the Houthis, the Bab el-Mandeb Strait.
And I want to pause here to connect this directly to you, the listener, because it is so easy to hear about military bases in the desert and think it doesn't affect you.
Oh, it definitely affects you.
Right. If global shipping lanes are choked off, ships have to reroute around entire continents. That directly impacts global trade. It impacts the economy. The price of fuel goes up. The price of groceries goes up.
The supply chain gets completely tangled.
Exactly. This isn't just geopolitical theory. It is the price of everyday goods at your local store.
It is a global economic threat driven by a regional military vulnerability.
Well, this has been an incredibly eye-opening deep dive. Let's do a quick recap of the sources we covered today.
Sure.
First, despite the political narratives, Iran's military capabilities are far from degraded.
Right.
Second, the supposedly impenetrable U.S. and Israel air defense shield has a severe blind spot problem because their radars are being targeted and overwhelmed by cheap drone swarms.
Yep, the math just doesn't work in their favor.
And third, the historical rules of engagement in the Middle East have been entirely rewritten. Both sides are playing the madman theory, and nuclear sites are now on the board.
It is a very precarious situation, and it actually sparks a chilling final thought that I want to leave the listeners with today.
Okay, let's hear it.
The sources don't explicitly say this, but reading between the lines, if a superpower's multi-billion-dollar defense network can be crippled simply by blinding its radars with cheap, disposable drones, we really have to ask ourselves, are the days of traditional military dominance over?
Oh, wow.
I mean, is the future of warfare going to be won by the side that spends the least, rather than the side that spends the most?
That is a fascinating and honestly terrifying question to end on. Does the cheap drone beat the billion-dollar radar? We will have to see. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for your time. Please drop a comment below with your thoughts on this. Who do you think wins the future of warfare? Let us know. Stay safe, and we will catch you in the next one.